the ruthless approach when it comes to finances and spending. Yes, we will be ruthless, as we have been ruthless in the decisions that we've taken. The changes we're bringing about, whether it's industrial strategy, planning, energy, etc., all of these are designed to ensure that we get the growth that we need. AI as well. So far, we've got clear fiscal rules, and we're going to keep to those fiscal rules, and that's why the Chancellor was absolutely right in the words that she chose to describe the approach that we will take.
Imagine standing before America's Treasury Secretary representing Britain in critical trade talks and then publicly suggesting that Europe matters more. That's exactly what Rachel Reeves did, triggering an unprecedented intervention from Number 10 that has Westminster insiders talking about the first major crisis in Starmer's government. With 25% tariffs threatening British steel and automotive industries, and billions in exports at risk, Reeves's diplomatic misstep couldn't have come at a worse time. I've analysed dozens of political conflicts, but this public humiliation reveals something deeper about Labour's internal power struggles and Britain's confused position.
As it is for the British people. So we move now to the next stage of our plan. Decisions we take in coming days and weeks will be guided only by our national interest. Nothing else will guide me. That is my focus. And clearly there will be an economic impact from the decisions that the US has taken. I said that in my first speech as Prime Minister, and that is how I govern. That is how we have planned, and that is exactly what is required today.
On the global stage. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. It's a tale as old as politics itself. One careless moment, one unguarded comment, and suddenly a government finds itself in freefall. Rachel Reeves's Washington blunder wasn't just a slip of the tongue, it was a diplomatic hand grenade tossed directly into Britain's already precarious trading position. Picture the scene. Britain's Chancellor standing shoulder to shoulder with US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the embodiment of American economic power. With Donald Trump's return to the White House looming and his already announced 25% tariffs threatening to decimate British steel and automotive exports, Reeves had one job: reassure our American allies of their importance. Instead, she did the unthinkable, effectively ranking the EU relationship as Britain's priority.
And that is why I'm confident in our mission for growth, and I'm completely confident in my team. We never pretended, nor would anybody sensibly argue, that after 14 years of failure, in 6 months, it's going to take time. The question is, are you creating the conditions? Do you have the determination? You can turn around our economy and our public services before Christmas, before the election. I said it's not going to be possible to do this.
The timing couldn't have been worse. With billions in British exports hanging in the balance and thousands of manufacturing jobs at risk, Reeves's comments sent shockwaves through diplomatic channels. Trump allies, already harbouring suspicions about Labour's commitment to the special relationship, seized upon the gaffe as evidence of Britain's divided loyalties. One senior Republican source reportedly remarked, "If they don't want our business, we've got plenty of other trading partners." Financial markets reacted swiftly to the perceived division within Britain's trade strategy. The pound stumbled against the dollar as investors questioned whether Britain could maintain a coherent approach to its most critical trading relationships. British steel company shares dropped by 3% in early trading following Reeves's comments, reflecting immediate concerns about export viability. What began as an awkward diplomatic moment quickly spiralled into a full-blown credibility crisis for Starmer's government. Political analysts noted the rapid transformation from faux pas to firestorm, with Number 10 scrambling to contain the damage while international partners watched closely. By midday, Starmer faced an impossible choice: ignore his Chancellor's blunder and appear weak on the international stage, or publicly correct her and expose divisions within his cabinet. This wasn't just about a verbal misstep, it was about undermining Britain's entire negotiating position with the US, at precisely the moment when unity and clarity were essential. In the high-stakes game of international trade, Reeves had inadvertently revealed Britain's hand while sitting at the poker table. The incident laid bare the fundamental tensions within Labour's post-Brexit foreign policy approach. How can Britain prioritise EU regulatory alignment while simultaneously pursuing favourable trade terms with America? Reeves's comment exposed this contradiction that Starmer's government had thus far managed to paper over with careful messaging. That careful messaging facade didn't just crack, it shattered spectacularly when Starmer took the extraordinary step of publicly contradicting his own Chancellor. The precision and swiftness of his response tells us everything about his leadership philosophy. Message discipline trumps ministerial autonomy, even at the cost of public humiliation. Starmer's intervention came with surgical precision. His spokesman emphasised that both relationships, EU and US, held equal importance and firmly rejected any suggestion of a binary choice between trading partners. This wasn't just damage control, it was a public reassertion of authority that relegated his Chancellor to a subordinate position in full view of international partners. The competing pressures Starmer faced reveal the impossible tightrope he walks. Maintaining Washington's confidence required swift action, but at what cost to his Chancellor's standing? By choosing international credibility over protecting Reeves from embarrassment, Starmer established a hierarchy that places diplomatic imperatives above cabinet harmony. The precedent this sets for ministers is chilling. Will they now operate in constant fear of public correction if they deviate from Number 10's precisely calibrated script? This could create an environment where ministers become reluctant to express independent views or make statements without exhaustive vetting, potentially stifling the very diversity of thought needed for effective governance. Behind closed doors, crisis meetings likely unfolded with lightning speed. The rapid response suggests intense discussions among key advisors assessing fallout and crafting strategy. That such decisive action emerged so quickly points to a well-oiled crisis management machine, but one perhaps too willing to sacrifice its own players. This isn't the first glimpse we've had of Starmer's approach to internal discipline. When Rachel Reeves previously urged colleagues not to defy Starmer by joining picket lines, we saw the same emphasis on unity above all else. The pattern suggests a leadership style where maintaining control and projecting a unified image takes precedence over accommodating diverse viewpoints. Some critics have noted a gendered dimension to these public corrections, pointing to Sue Gray's recent ousting and now Reeves' public rebuke. Transport Secretary Louise Hayes comments that there were bound to be missteps during a new administration's early days seem inadequate against the backdrop of such decisive internal policing. The long-term impact on Starmer-Reeves relations remains uncertain, but the damage to cabinet cohesion is immediate. By sacrificing short-term harmony for international credibility, Starmer has established himself as a leader willing to pay steep internal costs for external gain. What we've witnessed is far more than a brief breakdown in Labour's communication. It's the first major test of Starmer's leadership philosophy, revealing the fundamental contradictions in his government's approach to international relations. This crisis presents a pivotal moment for his administration. The fallout creates a critical juncture that will define the coming weeks. Either Starmer emerges stronger, having demonstrated decisive leadership during turbulence, or his authority suffers as internal fractures deepen. The international community is watching closely. As Number 10 attempts to navigate this diplomatic minefield, we're left wondering whether Starmer's management style will ultimately build credibility abroad or simply generate more fires to extinguish at home.